What's up, everybody? It's Andrea. Today, we are totally in love with this week's alien makeup. I'm very upset by the Richard Simmons wig, and we asked the question, how the heck are we supposed to detect Starfleet-specific fibers? Come on now.
Welcome to the TNG Podcast, the #1 place in the Alpha Quadrant to geek out about all things Star Trek: The Next Generation. I'm your co-host, Shereese.
Hey, I'm your co-host, Andrea. Today we're breaking down Season 7, Episode 4, Gambit Part 1. This episode was written by Naren Shankar and directed by Peter Lauritsen. After hearing a rumor that Captain Picard has been murdered while on an archaeological dig, the Enterprise crew sets out to find the smugglers who may have been responsible.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah, I feel like Picard should more reading and horseback riding and less archaeology, because like the last time he did archaeology,
he met the love of his life.
Well, he met the love of his minute and like romped around.
He met the love of his vacation.
Yes, he did. Everybody needs the love of their vacation. Everybody could use that. Seriously, it's great.
Yeah, you're right. But you know what's so funny, Andrea, about you saying that? Wasn't it like 2 episodes ago when you said the captain needs another holiday?
Oh my God, maybe I didn't mean like this. This was not what I meant, okay?
He only holidays in one specific way. This is how he holidays. He goes on an archaeological dig.
Or he, and I'm doing air quotes, holidays by going to like Starfleet symposiums on the latest metaphysical extrapolations of whatever. And it's like, buddy, that's just a cool thing you're into. That's not a vacation, but whatever. That's a conference. Mm-hmm. You can go to fun conferences, but a conference is not. Anyway, what are your initial thoughts on Gambit Part 1?
My initial thoughts were, I just remember this one being really stupid, and I'm hoping I remembered that wrong. Those were my initial thoughts. What were your initial thoughts?
You ready for this?
Yes.
Meh. That's all I wrote. Meh.
It was just the emoji with like the sliding mouth, right? Where it's just like a slash, and that's it. Not a smile, not a frown.
Yeah, not a straight line, like a Yeah, that's all I've got. I remember this being really stupid too. I remember Picard wearing that like dumb brown velvet outfit with those faux leather straps like crisscross, like he's got like bandoliers on him or something. I'm like, dude, okay. You know what? Whatever. Not everyone's a slam dunk. That's fine. So let's just jump right into this. The episode opens up in some kind of musty bar. Troy is working her magic on the barkeep. He's trying to meet with her privately. He's like, I get off in a few hours. And she's like, well, I'm afraid if I can't find the man I'm looking for, I'm going to have to move on. So are you sure you haven't seen him? And I love his description. He's like human, about 2 meters tall, smooth-headed.
Yes. Yeah, that was really funny.
I thought that was funny.
Couple things about this scene. My first thought was like, ugh, not another cantina. Like, this is going to be horrible. But actually, I'm going to give you my final thought on this. This cantina scene may have been the best cantina scene that we have seen at all on this show. There might be one other one that wasn't so bad. Like, maybe if we count the bar scene when Picard was young, but that whole episode was dumb. But this cantina scene, I was like, okay. There was no weird opera music. It just was like, there was no, some creepy guy coming up to Worf and telling him his dad's still alive. This whole scene made sense to me. The way they did it made sense to me.
Yes.
The people they chose made sense to me. The way they dressed, the way they acted, it all made sense.
It wasn't some like knockdown, drag out brawl like the Klingon bar and all that, and feeling like, or even like the little like saloon scene like in Fistful of Datas. This is actually what like a little dive bar kind of looks like. It's dark, it's dank. People are basically minding their own business because they know better. And like, that's about it. Like, I believe it. I buy it, right?
It was great. And I also really liked the bartender's makeup. I thought it was so creative. I have never seen anything like that before or since, to my knowledge. And I just thought that was spectacularly done. Like, I even bought that. I was like, yeah, this guy feels like a real, like this is a real alien species who does this. Yes.
100%. It reminded me a little bit of Kill Bill, where Bill's brother is just sort of this kind of given up on life, run down sort of low life, who's a bouncer at a strip club. And it's just like, yeah, that tracks. Like, this tracks. So the whole thing kind of tracks. Now he's telling Troy, he's like, haven't seen this guy. And she's like, you're lying. And he's like, you're a beta Z and da-da-da-da. So basically turns up nothing. So she walks off. Here's what I love. Riker is Riker no matter where he is. Rikering everywhere, okay? He's making friends with all sorts. And his first line of the whole episode is, great story. I'll be sure to remember that the next time I'm in a knife fight. I was like, what? Like, what story were they telling him? And he kind of, nobody swaggers as well as Commander William Riker. I gotta say, like, his swagger is so believable and so good. And it's like very sexy and confident, right? Worf is there too, not turning up anything, looking like they're searching for the captain, the smooth-headed guy. And they corner this super nervous-looking little loner. And he's about to
also has really epic monster makeup.
Great makeup.
I mean, it's creepy and disturbing, but so flawless. So flawless. They've actually changed, or I don't know what this actor actually looks like under this, but it looks like they have changed the proportions of his face. But with a super skin tight prosthetic that is nothing like Too Short a Season, where that guy had this big giant head on his head to make him look old, right? This was like, it's prosthetics, but like the cheekbones are super high and the mouth is super little and the nose is super, and it looks totally legit. This is another one where even like his hands were like dirty, his fingernails were dirty.
Yes, and like
creases
long.
on the. It was just beautifully done, like beautifully done. I was like amazed.
Yeah, I mean, I do think that this is the strength of season 7, where they've dialed everything in so well. Even if the story itself is dumb, the makeup and the looks, the continuity, like all of it is great. All of it's great.
A++.
Yeah, totally. So when this little nervous Nellie's about to spill the beans, the bartender comes up and basically tries to tell him to shut up. But Beverly, decked out in a super adorable plasticized denim beret, puts a phaser to his cheek and tells them both to sit down. And I just wrote, hell yeah.
Yes. And the way this all came about, I thought was really clever. So Worf is like, I think that guy knows something. And Riker's like, okay, let's go ask him. And Worf's like, wait, Commander, I have to. And then he doesn't listen. So when he sits down and he's like, all right, my friend tells me you've got some information to tell me. Then he says, well, sir, I also have a sister, so I understand what you're going through. And Riker's like, what? He looks at Worf and Worf says, well, I told him what happened. I told him about your sister and that we're looking for the man who impregnated her. And you're just like, you just see Riker like, yes, correct. That is what happened. And he's like piecing it together, right? So then this guy is, he's about to spill the beans. Like you said, the bartender picks him up and manhandles him. And he's like, you've had too much to drink. I'm going to kick you out. When Beverly pulls the phaser out on them, Riker says, that's my sister, by the way. You're just like, beautifully said, where it's like, this is why she's so angry. This is my sister. She has a short fuse and she needs answers. It was just super clever. So he sits back down and he's like, okay, how much are you going to pay me to give you answers or whatever? And the bartender is like, if you say a word, you'll be murdered or something like that. We're going to kill you. And so then he's like, on second thought, I can't tell you anything. And it's just like, this guy is really between a rock and a hard place because he was just seconds away from selling this information for, I think, like 15 bars of latinum or something crazy. But
gold press latinum.
But now if he says anything, he's going to be killed. But if he doesn't say anything, Beverly's going to shoot him in the face. So he does not have good options here. And I really was curious what he was going to do.
Yeah, at the very least, let's hope that phaser is set to like warm or lamp knockover or something.
Push. Yeah.
Or push,
gentle nudge.
Or gentle breeze or something. And she's like, that's the first setting. The second is kill.
Well, we know Beverly's not going to kill anyone, but he doesn't know that.
He does not need to know that. And that beret is screaming Patty Hearst in San Francisco bank with a shotgun dangerous. Okay. Like this is dangerous.
You just don't know what you're going to get. And to me, I'm like, man, you're darned if you do and darned if you don't.
You really are.
So I didn't know what he was going to do. I was like, what's he going to say? I was really curious. Like, is he going to talk or not talk?
Right. Well, he does end up kind of striking a deal being like, if I tell you what I know, I want safe passage out of here, which I think is actually pretty smart. And so he basically spills the beans. He's like, I know the man who you were talking about. He was thrown up against a wall. There was a scuffle. An alien took out a weapon and vaporized him. And Troy looks at Riker and she goes, he's telling the truth. And I went,
the way he said it was so great too. He was like, you guys are really going to like this. And then
he tells
them the part that he was vaporized. He's like, right?
Right, because in his mind, they're looking for someone that they hate to like extract some justice. Yeah, and it's like, that's not actually what's happening here.
Yeah, so here's the weird thing. Beverly scans the wall and says that she can find Starfleet fiber traces and also like weapons fire traces. And I'm like, what? Okay, really? Like, for some reason, this just, of all the things they do in this show, of all the things, time travel, warp bubbles, all the things.
All that stuff.
That one for me stretched credulity. This is the one I have a problem with.
This is it? Like they couldn't have blasted a little tiny fiber off of his like jacket or something?
It's not the fact that they blasted a piece of his fiber or his fiber stuck to the wall when he touched the wall or whatever. It's the fact that the tricorder can pick up Starfleet fabrics.
Yeah, you're right.
What are you even talking about? What does that even mean? Like, I just was like, what? And then,
even Starfleet uniforms have the tag made in China, and they're like, the fibers indicate
that's polyester and cotton. Talking about some Starfleet fabric. And then when she was like, and there's some crystalline.
I love how mad this is making you.
It was just so dumb. And there's some crystalline whatever, which means that there was weapons fire. Since when can a tricorder pick up like a weapon that we've never seen before, but know that we've seen before when there's disruptors, we've seen before when there's scorch marks, but she was picking up residue of weapons fire with no scorch marks or anything.
I feel like all weapons at some level are cellular disruptors. So if you can detect some sort of cellular disruption, then it's like, okay, you may not be able to pinpoint like it's this kind of weapon that we've never seen before, but it's like, I feel like this is, it's like you go into a not that I've ever done this, but like you go into like a crime scene and you see like holes in the wall and you're like, okay, I feel like somebody was doing some shooting in here, probably.
Okay, so that makes sense. But going into a room and being like, there's a microscopic crystalline structure inside of the tile. I think that means that there was a weapon fired that uses microcrystalline structure. Get out of here.
Girl, I'm just going to stop you right there and say, just to remind you, we're breaking down Gambit, girl. It's not well thought out.
I'm just saying, of everything I've ever seen on the show, that's the one thing I take issue with. And that's it. So anywho, this happens. So then next thing you know,
it cuts to credits.
It cuts to credits in a really solid place. I thought that was a really good bump.
Yeah. Like he was vaporized. Yeah. And then when we come back, it's in Riker's quarters that Troy comes to see him and tells him she's been planning Picard's memorial, because it's basically like acting Captain Riker's log. Mm-hmm. Dr. Crusher has identified Captain Picard's DNA at the vaporization spot. There can be no doubt that he's dead. So Troy comes to tell him she's planning this memorial and she wants him to give the eulogy, but he doesn't want to. And which makes sense
because he's captain. So he should give the eulogy.
Yeah, he should, right?
Captain. Mm-hmm.
Even if it was like, I mean, Captain Picard gave the eulogy for Tasha Yar and like he didn't replace her, So, he was like, Jonathan Frakes does a really good dignified outburst, like angry outburst, right?
Yeah, he's good at the pout. Mm-hmm.
He does really solid indignation. He kind of has this outburst and he's like, I don't want to give the eulogy because I'm not going to the memorial. And she's like, well, a memorial service will help give closure to people. And Will's like, I don't want closure. I have a big open wound right here. And he's pointing to his heart. I don't want it to get better. And I don't want to pretend that I don't want to pretend that it didn't happen. And I was like, wow, I can totally relate to how that feels when you have a big open wound and you don't want it to get better in a way where you're like, no, this hurts and I need to feel this, right?
And in his case, he wanted revenge. So he was like, I need this fiery anger to sustain me for however long it takes to get revenge. Exactly. And if I put this on the back burner and just grieve his loss, I won't have enough motivation to get justice. So that's where it was coming from.
No, this is guys, this is one of Shereese's superpowers where she really can read a situation and accurately, objectively find the facts in it in like 0.02 nanoseconds. Like, Shereese, you are so freaking good at this.
Thank you.
It's true. So Troy reads him the riot act, and I was like, you go, girl. She's like, you're the only one that's hurting here. We're all fucking hurting. Okay.
That might have been my favorite Troy scene of ever. Oof, it was so good. And she was like, here's the thing. I complained a lot in season 1 about Troy crying because she cried way too much about way too little.
She sucks. Yeah. In season 1. And here she's like near tears. She doesn't cry, but she's near tears and basically at that point. And it is perfect. It is beautiful. It's like the right amount of like rage crying that just fit the situation so great. I mean, he goes off on him. Who do you think you are? You're not the only one who's hurting. Like, you're being selfish. You have a duty to this ship. It is your job and your responsibility to step up. And it just was, it was so good. I was like, wow, I didn't know Troy could do such a good rant. We haven't had the pleasure until now of seeing her
this.
rant. Yeah, like her rant really matches his energy. And I think also it's helped by the fact that they have this closeness where it's like, we've always been able to speak openly and honestly with each other. And this is some bullshit that you're doing right here. Like, you're supposed to lead these people in times of grief and hardship, and you're not doing it. And what the F? And
it's especially great because her energy is usually so low and calm to counter the other person's high energy, right?
Yep.
So they're like, I'm mad, I'm angry. And she's usually like, well, let's talk about that. And what I love is she started out that way and she was going that route. And then she just snapped, which I love that because she's a counselor, but she's also a human. Like, she's also a person. And I love that she was just like, okay, the sweet baby voice thing is not working for you. Well, let me tell you something. And it wasn't even like, I'm telling you this, just, you know, for your benefit. It was like, I'm telling you this because it's the truth and you need to hear it. And I'm tired of trying to tell you in nice ways. I need to just tell you what's up. And I just really appreciated that whole well thought out scene.
100%. Like, she really does. And it does, since we were just talking about season 1 Troy, I wish I could sort of see a side-by-side comparison of like what season 1 Troy would do. She'd probably be like, Bill, maybe a hug would you're like, I don't know. She wouldn't have like that. They gave her a spine. They really did. Yeah. They really did. And she just killed it. Now, on the bridge, Riker gets a subspace call from some admiral, and Riker is requesting to delay their next mission to investigate Picard's mysterious death. And he and the admiral kind of go back and forth, and Riker's like, to be honest, I just don't really trust like this planet's justice system. Like, it seems like they have a lot of corruption. Like, they're probably not going to find shit, you know. And Admiral Chakotay was like, yeah, you know what? You're right. Go for it. Like, I'm going to put the Enterprise kind of on extended leave so you can sort this out. And I was like, okay.
I was kind of like, really? You're not going to put any parameters? Like, you have 7 days or something? We're just going to let the flagship just scootaloo and
roam around,
do whatever you want to do. You have full, what do you say? Like, you have full reign on your mission parameters. Goodbye. What?
Yeah. You know, this guy is license to kill.
Yes. This guy is in revenge mode. And he just told you, I'm not objective. Like, I'm super pissed. Yeah. But I'm very motivated. I'm highly motivated. I will get this done. And he's just like, sounds good to me. Let me just
he's like, we're just gonna have another ship rendezvous with you to add Gatling guns on top of the Enterprise, and then off you go. Yeah. You want some Claymore explosives? Just take those too. So
ask questions second, Riker.
Right.
Ask second. You know, like
right. Now, the sketchy criminal who gave the information on Picard's death is now aboard the Enterprise, and he's snacking on this lovely little snackety plate of what looks, and I paused on this because, you know, we've been talking about Starfleet food for a minute. It looks like freeze-dried green beans, some crispy fish crackery things, and like rice balls. And I was like, wow, it looks like they went very Asian in their snack plate, and it looks so futuristic and cool. I loved it. Riker comes to see him, and this piece of shit asks to be moved to better quarters. And he's like, I don't care for the decor in here. And I was like, we just picked you up at some dive bar where you about to get killed. So are you serious with this bullshit right now?
You know who this reminds me of? And this guy's name is Uranic. He reminds me of,
is it? Okay.
Yeah, he reminds me. They said his name, but like no one else's name. And
I was like, smarmy guy?
Yeah. Anyways.
With the Richard Simmons wig? That was the most upsetting part of all his makeup. It was the Richard Simmons wig, girl. It was really bad.
Oh my gosh.
I wanted to put on some dolphin shorts and run away really hard.
That was the most upsetting part? Okay.
Yep. Yep. It was that Richard
whole like
Simmons
wrinkled zombie
wig.
Look was fine, but that wig
was fine.
That wig was not okay.
The wig was real bad.
He reminds me of Mundungus in Harry Potter, who's just this like, he's just this con man who's like a thief and a criminal. He reminds me of this guy because every chance he gets, he like ups the ante. So for example, this is a total Harry Potter tangent, but for example, there's like this tournament and a whole bunch of people's stuff got destroyed. So Mundungus puts in this like request for compensation for like this gigantic mansion that was destroyed.
Like a 72-inch screen TV and all this.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, he's like some four level tent or whatever. No, here's the thing. He didn't even have a tent. He was sleeping like under his coat next to a tree. But he put in this order for like all this stuff. And this is what this guy reminds me of.
What kind of person could he be with a name like Mundungus? Okay.
So it's not his fault, it's his parents' fault. Is that what we're
No, I mean, let's I
know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what this guy reminds me of. It's like
Mundungus Fletcher,
beggars can't be choosers, but you are choosing up and down. Like, I don't care for the decor. And Riker's like, it's the best we have. And then he goes, he waves his hand as if like, well, if that's the best you can do, then I suppose. And you're just like, this guy.
I wrote, what a smarmy little shit. And like, I love that, you know, Riker's like, all right, we gave you what you asked for. You're up here. You're like safe. We're dropping you off. Yeah, you're comfortable AF, right? Enough to be like snacking. And Riker's like, we need more information. And this little dirtbag plays coy. And he's like, okay. And then Riker, because we know and love Riker gets the little Cheshire Cat grin. And I was like, oh, motherfucker, you're in for it now.
Yeah.
Like, you are in so much trouble and you don't even know it, right?
Bail out.
Yeah. Go. Yeah. So he asks the criminal what he wants. And he's like, nothing much, just a shuttlecraft. I want to travel a bit. And I was like, oh, have you met Professor Moriarty? Like, he also wanted to take a shuttlecraft. Like,
and we'll tell you how that worked out for him.
Yeah. He's in a cube, okay? So Riker's smile just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And I'm like, stop while you're ahead, dude. Stop. He picks the guy up and throws him against the wall. And he's like, you've got 12 outstanding arrest warrants for fraud and petty theft in the Klingon Empire. So tell me what you know, and you'll only serve 5 years instead of 20. And that dude just cracks like an egg. Mm-hmm. And considering how many times he's been picked up and thrown around, I feel like he probably doesn't need to see a chiropractor for a while. Or maybe he needs to go see one like immediately because he's been manhandled. Something fierce.
I mean, really, he should see one before he's sent to prison, because at this point, he's going to somebody's prison. He starts begging and he goes, no, please send me to a Starfleet a Starfleet
rehabilitation
rehab instead. Man. Yeah. And it's like the fact that you even know your options shows you've been in this game for a long time.
You know what? Yep. Whenever you see criminals asking for rehabilitation centers, it always reminds me very famously of the Harvey Weinstein scandal when it all came to light, what an absolute piece of dog shit that person is. And when the story was about to break, he got like advance warning that the story was going to break. And so, he knew everybody was going to turn their back on him because the allegations were too severe to look the other way. And so he sent this email that actually was like leaked, where he was like, I know I have problems and I know I'm like super flawed. So like, instead of firing me and stuff, like maybe send me to rehab so I can like dig deep and do the work. I was like, man, fuck you. Like, look, you have ruined people's lives. So stuff like this, when people are like, send me to a rehabilitation. No.
Yeah.
You should have thought of that before you did all this.
Because I also feel like probably the people who get sent to rehabilitation centers are the people who don't request it. Right? Like they're not sitting around asking for it. They're like, well, I did it. I got caught. Okay, well, I guess I got to go to jail. And then people are like, or, could you do this? No. Oh, yeah, I guess so. But the people who are already negotiating, when they have 12 outstanding warrants, they've been in this game many times.
Yeah.
So
this was not like you accidentally pocketed some chapstick and you didn't realize. Like, come on.
At this point, he's going to somebody's prison. It's just a matter of whose. So he starts talking. He tells everything he knows, which is like one sentence of information.
Girl, he told us what the 11 herbs and spices were. He told us the recipe for Coca-Cola, like he spilled more beans than Taco Bell. Okay, this dude was like, also, I'm pretty sure my mom never loved my dad. Like, he was talking.
He tells him that there were a group of mercenaries that were responsible for killing the person they've been looking for. And he overheard them saying they were headed to the Barada system. Yeah. And so,
which I was like, Barada, that's my favorite cheese. That was the most exciting part of this whole episode for me.
It's a really cool name for a system too. I really liked it. I really liked
and then it's called the Barada system, but the planets are like Baradis 3, Baradis 4. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. It's the first time we've seen that.
Yeah, I like it when they do that. It makes it feel, again, with world building, that little touch makes this seem more real.
Yes. And I also really want to see, and we haven't seen this yet, and I guess it makes sense for the sake of storytelling because we wouldn't be able to follow the story very easily, but like we're in the Sol system, but it's not like Sol 1, Sol 2, Sol 3. Right. Like we would be Sol 3 if we weren't Earth, right? So I'd kind of like to see like you're in a Sol system with like these are the different named planets, but like that might be a little hard.
Yeah, but like if you think about that with the Sol system, you could say we're in the Sol system and the planet Mars. You don't have any kind of reference where Mars fits inside of Sol. So I actually like that they do it that way, and maybe if we had it to do over now, if we renamed everything, we'd probably do it that way also.
Yeah, but still. Now, here's something I take exception to. Riker goes, cool, Mr. Warp, take us to the Barada system, Warp 6. Warp 6? Really? That's just like a fast walk. How about Warp 9? 9.5? Come on. Like, we're trying to solve a murder.
Well, but I mean,
I guess also they don't know. I guess that's true. Like, they don't know he's still alive. So
it's a rush, but it's not like emergency. It's not like someone's dying. Someone has died. So it's just like, let's get there.
I bet if Starfleet had said they had 72 hours to solve this, they would be going warp 9. They'd be like, we don't have any time to lose.
They would just stuff somebody in a torpedo and fire them off. Get there in like 2.5 minutes.
Kaylar, we miss you. All right, so Baratus 3 is a planet.
Kaylar.
I know. Baratus 3 is a planet with some ancient archaeological dig sites, the perfect place for Picard to be vacationing. Riker wants to lead the away team, but Data has objections, and Riker's like, I get what you're saying. Like, now I'm the captain. I'm not supposed to lead away missions. It's too risky, but like, I can't let this one go. So down he goes. And this is why you need to have Geordi on every freaking away mission, unless you have to reverse the polarity or you're about to die or something, because his visor detects all kinds of stuff. He detects like microcrystalline damage all throughout the area. It's the same pattern that Beverly picked up in the bar. And I'm guessing a tricorder could have got that, but it just isn't as cool as when Geordi looks at something and then just goes, look, microcrystalline fractures. And you're like, okay, really? So Worf calls them over to this like broken chunk of pottery. And Riker's like, wow, it kind of looks like somebody could have just dropped it. And then like, bam, phaser fire, like just out of nowhere. And you're like, what?
Yeah, that was actually completely shocking to me. I did not see that coming. Nowhere. Yeah, I did not see that coming because the broken pottery just looked like someone dropped it. Maybe someone was trying to take it out because someone else, I think Worf had come over and said, it looks like a bunch of these sites have been disturbed and they've been looted. And then they find the little pottery and it's like, okay, well, somebody was probably stealing this stuff and we don't know why because it's not valuable. It's been here forever. But phaser fire was so shocking because I thought whoever was stealing whatever has left a long time ago. And then they just start firing and everyone's like, oh my gosh. And everyone jumps behind like the smallest rocks they can find and like lays flat on the ground and tries not to get shot in the face.
See, I was thinking, I didn't actually think like it had been dropped. I actually thought it was a honeypot where it's like you lay down stuff that's going to track people. Yeah, it's a trap. That's a type of trap. It's called the honeypot, where it's like you lay down something that people want and then they'll come to it and then you got them right in your sights. So I love that. I thought as a honeypot, it really wasn't that great because if I were a bad guy and wanted to lay a honeypot for someone, I would not do it in a location where targets can easily jump behind boulders and stuff. Like do it in the open, like in a field with no trees or whatever. But maybe it really was dropped.
Yeah, I don't think it was a honeypot. I think it was dropped. And then they were like, they came back for it. That's what I think it was.
Well, see, I thought that, but then as I watched more of the episode, I was like, oh, these people are just freaking imbeciles. Like they probably did just drop it and that was that. So yeah, whatever.
Right. They didn't drop it cleverly or on purpose. They dropped it because they're like,
because they're idiots. Yeah. Now LaForge is like, LaForge Enterprise, we're under right? Like it's immediately cut off. And it seems like these bad guys are about as good as shooting as Imperial stormtroopers because they are literally hitting everything,
which is lucky for Starfleet.
Yeah, right.
They have like the worst cover they could possibly have.
They are hitting nothing except that one random dude like we don't know and care about. Riker tries to set up a crossfire. Rando. I know.
He does. Riker goes, okay. He jumps behind a rock with another rock with some other
boulder.
And then he says, okay, listen, I'm going to run behind this other boulder over there so we can get a crossfire going and we can pin him down. Okay, break. So then he makes a run for some other rock and immediately...
Starfleet! Yeah. They break. Yeah, they got to do the like hands in.
You guys can't see this because it's audio only, but Andrea just did like for a sporting event when you're like, go Tigers. Yeah. But for Starfleet.
When you put your hands all in the middle and then you go up, like it's supposed to be this bonding thing, but it's kind of dumb.
Man, I wish everybody could have seen that.
So, maybe for our next podcast, we'll make it like a video podcast as well, whatever.
We could. I'm not 100% opposed to that. I'm a smaller percentage opposed to that.
So you're saying there's a chance. Okay.
Correct. There's a chance. So he goes behind this other boulder and it immediately is like the boulder is hit by a blast and it knocks him unconscious somehow.
Completely. Yeah.
And it basically looks like he ran face first into the rock and then fell down.
I know.
And
he's like dusty and gray and stuff. You're like, damn, that's granite. That's really hard rock.
This was a horrible plan. I mean, I guess it was a good plan before you enacted the plan, and now we see that it was a horrible plan.
I mean, it was a great plan. Like the number one rule sort of like battlefield skirmish, and I am certainly no expert, but I am a fan of reading about stuff like this, is that you always want to have a plan of escape. Like never ever go anywhere where there's no escape route ever. Like that's so dated because then you're trapped. The other two is if you're trapped somewhere, try to get the other team surrounded so you can come around them and get the drop on them. Right. So it's like, that's what he was trying to do. It all makes sense to me, but like an explosion went off and knocked him. And so I was like, well, who could have guessed that was going to happen? So the attackers beam away with Riker. So I was like, I guess Data, now you're captain. Like,
and also not only is he captain, he's also correct, because he said, sir, you should not go on the away mission because you're the captain. The captain stays with the ship. And he's like, not this time, Data. Not this time.
Yeah. Also, cool your jets, dude. Because cool your Alaskan jets. Because as an android, I feel like my reflexes are better. I'm stronger. I'm faster. I probably should go on this. And you should probably keep your ass on the bridge. But okay, whatever.
There was no reason for them to think that there would be any serious danger on the planet. It was more just like, in general, the captain shouldn't go. But this time when Riker got kidnapped, it was like, darn it. You really shouldn't have gone. Yeah.
You really shouldn't have gone.
You really shouldn't have gone. But it's happened. It's over. It's done. So next thing you know, they are in the Enterprise saying, oh my gosh, there's a ship taking off. So all this time, by the way, when Geordi was trying to talk to the ship and everything else, and they said we're under attack, their communication was lost between the Enterprise and the people on the planet. Not only that, they lost access to their comm badges. They couldn't communicate with them. They couldn't locate them. They couldn't beam them out. They couldn't rescue them. And it turns out that this mercenary ship has some kind of amazing technology that just scatters other people's electronics and makes them useless. So we see the ship leaving the planet, and they just basically, they fire a couple times and then run away. And so Data's like, pursue maximum warp. We will overtake them. And so they go chasing after them. And I actually was thinking, did they just leave everybody on the planet? Yep, sure did. Because that's not important right now. It's, who are these people? We don't care if people got shot down there. We don't care anything. We're not going to beam down Beverly just to make sure. We're not doing that. Just follow that ship. So they follow the ship, and then very quickly the ship completely 100% disappears from all radar sensors.
Yeah,
whatever.
it's like, is there a cloaking?
Yeah, and the way it did it was it kind of like faded, gone. So it wasn't just like instant disappearing that cloaking does, but it's some kind of technology we have never seen before on the show.
Which I think is super cool. I think it's really cool. Yeah, so they're gone, and the ensign is like, no, I've tried everything. Like, I've remodulated the sensors, all that. Like, there's nothing. So in the senior staff meeting, which at this point is just Data, Worf, and Troy, and I feel like cardboard cutouts of Picard and Riker in some chairs.
They go back to the planet to get them. So they did go back for the away team.
Yeah, so it's Data, Worf, and Troy. It's 3 people now in the senior staff meeting. I feel like we could have used Beverly in this one too. Like, we only see her in the beginning, which now that I think of it, Data tells them in yet another incredible LCARS like picture that the ship is encased in what looks like an energy shield that makes it invisible to the sensors. So Geordi's like, aha, if I remodulate the sensor sequence, I may be able to find them. And Worf's like, we can't just sit here. And Data's like, on the contrary, it's what we must do. We can't find them. And so our best bet is to stay here and investigate what they were doing on the surface to get more information. And thank you, Data, for being right about this.
And also
thank you, Worf, for like going with your heart, because that's 100% what I would do. And you would be Data. You'd be like, I know you want to do this, Andrea, but this is our only lead right now. Like, what are we going to do? Go gallivanting around empty space looking for a ship we can't find? Like,
well, he's also voicing the opinion of the audience, right? Because the audience is like, you have to go get him, you have to save him, you have to do something. But as Data pointed out, how are we going to do it? We can't scan them, we can't find them. And even though Geordi is saying he can do some kind of technological magic, Data's like, statistically, that's almost impossible. And it's Data, so he already knows. He's like, that's good. That would take,
he's already done
75 years for you to figure that out, and by then it's too late. And his solution of, let's go investigate the planet, it might give us clues. While it seems very passive and it seems unlikely to do anything, it was the best call, because upon investigating the planet, they discover a lot of super important things.
Yes, that they wouldn't have gotten if they had followed Worf's like impulse
idea of just
chase after
flying
them.
around. I mean, they couldn't
flying
chase
around
because there was no trail, so they would have just been flying in circles.
It's back to that emotion thing we were talking about a few episodes ago, where anger is a awful feeling, but it is the most empowering of all of the all of the, I would say, negative emotions, even though I don't really like the term negative emotions. But yeah, like sadness is helplessness, right? They just feel lost and sad. And Worf is sort of answering that call with like his rallying cry of like, let's do something, you know? And Data's like, we are going to do something, but you're right. It's something very passive, where when you're angry, it's sadness and frustration and helplessness and shame and a whole bunch of stuff all rolled into one usually. And at least you feel better if you slam a door or you hang up a phone or something. You feel like you're doing something, even though
you break a big pot. It's just like, yeah, I broke that. It feels like you're affecting.
Like, did you fix anything?
But you feel like you're affecting the world instead of being affected by it, which I totally get. And it would have been extremely unsatisfying for them to just fly around in circles. Like that would have just made the anger.
What are you gonna do?
Way
it would have
worse.
made it worse, right? Because then like now you're doing an action and nothing is coming out of it. So then you feel even more sad and even more angry. Like there's no satisfaction.
Yeah. So we discover, and I'm going to skip the mercenary ship and come back to it, but we discovered that this archaeological site has been looted, and that that not only this site has been looted, but a ton of sites have been looted recently in the area, like in the neighborhood. A whole bunch of houses have been robbed, and that the thing that keeps being taken is Romulan artifacts, and that this has something to do with Romulans. And Worf points out that one of the mercenaries was Romulan, and is like, aha, so maybe there's something here. And then Data goes, okay, here are the sites that have not yet been looted that have a lot of Romulan artifacts, and the closest one is Caldera 2. So let's plot a course for that. Most likely that's where they're going next.
Totally.
This was so helpful because now even if they're not there, they're probably at the other sites, or there can be a warp trail or something. You can pick up on their trail. I love it. So
it's awesome.
So while they're kind of doing that, we get to see inside of this mercenary ship, which honestly,
oh my God,
I guess they did a really great job because I don't remember anything about it. I was so stuck on like, who are these people and what's going on? And why does his hair look like that? I was so stuck on that I like didn't look at the ship at all, but it must have been so good that it didn't even stand out to me.
That's what good special effects are. That's what good sound, lighting, costume, makeup is.
You don't even notice it, right?
You don't even notice it. When it's bad, you notice it. It's the fish sauce in the curry again. Like if it's not there, something's missing. But if it's done right, everything is seamless, right? You don't notice it. So on this mercenary ship, this 1986 hairband looking motherfucker who looks like he just walked off the set of Labyrinth is grilling some underling about
That's
why
where I know him from. Labyrinth.
No, he's actually not in Labyrinth. I looked it up and I was like,
that's exactly what the guy. I think it's Billy Idol, right? I think that's what he looked like in Labyrinth.
He totally does, right? That's why I was like,
because I was looking at him and I was like, is this Wrath of Khan? Is this like, where is this? This whole look is from something. And when you said Labyrinth, I'm like, oh, it was this whole look is from Labyrinth.
The hair department was leaning super hard into 1986 for all of it. Like the bartender at the beginning had crimped hair, and I was like, crimped.
It was great.
Man.
It was great. And he had like these gold streaks that I was obsessed with.
Yeah, it was very cool.
This guy has this big kind of bushy, like rock star, 80s rock star hair.
Like, girl, he could have been in Poison. He could have been in Rock of Love 20 years later, okay? And he would not have needed a bandana, okay? Because that hair is just too big to quit. But this underling is telling him, like, I don't know why the engines are all messed up. Like, maybe realigning the warp core, but it'll take at least 11 hours. And being the excellent leader that he is, Hairband Dude says he wants warp 8 in 5 hours or else. And I was like, wow, okay, batting 1,000 already.
I said the same thing. I was just like, what do you even... In fact,
it reminds me, we're doing a lot of random tangents, but it reminds me of The Office when Michael was supposed to give a PowerPoint presentation to the whole staff. And he clearly did not open the program for the first time until he was in the meeting when it was projected. So he clicks it and it's like, and the message says like, install PowerPoint. And he says, yes. And then the little bar says 12 minutes remaining. And he goes, 12 minutes remaining. Okay, so this will take like 5 or 7 minutes. Let's just settle down, get a glass of water. I was like, what? Like, this is what that felt like, where it's like, oh, we're not gonna listen to the people who know how long it'll take. Okay. Like
so we already know that this guy whose name I think ends up being Baran.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we already know that Baran.
But I of course thought of Baran.
So Baran is just being such a jerk. And we're like, oh well, Riker has found himself in quite a pickle. And not a tasty one at all.
No.
And so then the captain tries to interrogate Riker, and Riker just gives like name, rank, and serial number, which I thought he was going to continue to do with which like do or what they're doing on TV. At least. So I thought I thought that's what he was going to continue to do, but he didn't. He started giving like really flippant, silly answers. to everything that the captain
I'm on
asked.
the lollipop.
I'm on the good ship lollipop. Yeah. And you're like, okay, well, how this is really funny. Haha. But like, you're a prisoner of war. We're not going to take this seriously. Okay. So, I mean, that's another way to cope, I guess. So anyways, he's making all these smart remarks. And then suddenly Baran clicks something on his
that we call him that.
And then Riker falls to the ground in pain. And he's like, oh, and he's like, yeah, don't get smart with me. There's this chip on your neck that you cannot remove that induces any level of pain that I want. I gave you the lowest setting, but it goes higher and it does it again. And he's like, so you better listen to what I have to say. And when he said that, that was the first time that I noticed every single member on the crew had that on their neck. And like after he pointed it out. And I was like, hey, wait a minute. Maybe this isn't a crew. Maybe they're all hostages.
Yeah. I don't think it's a crew. Well, I think it's one, a convenient way of enforcing discipline, which Baran actually says. But two, this is again the show illustrating how much better Starfleet is than anyone else, because Captain Picard would never. He leads by trust and responsibility and mutual respect, right? Where like Baran, like not so much. And I think it's again that kind of thing that shows how like utopic Starfleet is, even though they constantly interact with these other worlds who are deemed like lesser than them. And I actually kind of do like, and no spoilers at all, but in like later Star Treks and in Star Trek Picard, which I've watched, and I have some very mixed feelings about it, like Starfleet has kind of, the like idealistic world of Starfleet has gone by the wayside. Now there's like corruption and there's problems and it's a little bit more imperialistic and it's, it's more real. It's more real what like a global galactic superpower would actually be, not people who are explorers with like guns, so but in this day and age, it's still TNG, so again it's like showing like how they would never do this kind of thing because Starfleet's perfect, right? And now at this point there's a whole back and forth going on about whether they need to kill Riker or not, because he's in his Starfleet uniform, so they know he's Starfleet, and they kidnapped him from this away mission. And you hear this familiar voice saying, "They're right, Baran, kill him." And this guy turns around in a chair, and it's Captain Picard. Where the hell have you been the last 5 minutes? Probably frantically putting together a game plan, right? But Picard is going by the pseudonym Galen. I actually know a Galen, so I was like, wow, cool. Like a real name I know, like in Star Trek, that's cool. Picard and Riker play well off each other. And I have to say that Riker is taking this shocking news unbelievably well. And I mean unbelievably like textbook. Like you have been mourning this loss and grieving this and being angry and losing your cookies left and right because your best friend and mentor has been murdered. And here he is, and you just pick up the ball and run with it immediately, and there's no shock or anything.
Yeah, like he does raise an eyebrow. He arches an eyebrow, and then he just like plays along with it, which maybe it's not realistic. And once again, I have no problems with this. I buy it 100%. The Starfleet fibers, I can't, but this, yes, I buy this. And I like that they did it this way because I love when they have scenes where they have this like silent communication where they're just reading each other's thoughts by just a slight look or a slight word. And
that's
then
true.
The whole plan comes together and you're like, whoa, how'd they know that he meant this? And this? I love seeing that. It does not happen in real life as often as like, I'm sure I've experienced something like that from time to time. With a good friend or something, you have a look. Yeah. And you know what they're thinking. Like at a work meeting, that's really stupid. You look at each other and you're like, Like that does happen, but I love seeing it on screen. When like plan is formed from just this subtlety.
You're right. It is very cool. It actually reminds me of 11001001 with the Binars, where like they have them like trapped in a little bubble or whatever. Or no, it's that one where like Picard gets kidnapped and replaced with that duplicate.
Yeah, and then they finally the name of that one.
I don't remember that one. I remember the Binar one because it's just ones and zeros, so that's easy. But it reminds me of that episode where they have the little gel hockey puck that they're all trying to figure out and eat and all that stuff. And when they finally get those two aliens like on the bridge and create a force field around them, and they're like, I don't like being trapped. They're like, now maybe you'll think twice about doing this to other people because we don't like it either, right? So it is true. Like the silent communication's cool. Now, I gotta say, I don't do this often, but at the 25-minute, 30-second mark, right behind Riker is this very cool alien systems ops panel. And I really love how TNG has thought of every single little detail, right? They reuse some props, but not nearly as much as they could. And they take new aliens into consideration when constructing their ships and their sets and their whole world, right? This is what makes this show so incredible. And in my opinion, it was so ahead of its time. The special effects can be sometimes a little bit clanky, like in Ultra HD, but really it stands out because it happens so rarely. So otherwise, like they're batting a million. Like they're so great. Like I don't ever recall seeing this kind of systems ops panel again. Maybe because it was so seamless, I just never noticed it. But it's just kind of these circles that are like rotating, and there's some alien text, and it looks like kind of like energy beams going from one circle to another. And I was like, wow, that's just that level of thought. And I'm just thinking, how many hours of time did some graphic designer put in to make that little background piece just add to the story? I thought it was so cool. I loved it.
It was very cool. And earlier we saw the mercenary vessel on the L-Cars panel in the observation lounge, which you mentioned. And I thought it looked just like a bug. Like it looked like a bug.
It looks like a scarab beetle almost, right?
It looks like a scarab beetle without the shell part. And I was like, how in the world? Like I would never look at a scarab beetle and think starship, or a starship and think, let's make it look like that was just beautiful, beautiful touches all around.
Isn't that wonderful too? I think that the costume designers, set designers, everything, graphic designers, because the ship doesn't really exist, it's just an L-Cars display of it, they really take a lot from nature. Like the Cardassians are very snake-like. Like they took really great components from nature without being season 1, season 2, like Antikin and Sele and all that bullshit, right? Like this is really good. Now Picard is telling Bran to finish off Riker, but as he's like egging Bran on, which I was like, what are you playing
and he
at?
does say like I'll do it myself, right?
Right. And I was like, what the hell are you playing at? But as he's saying this, the engines, bam, accelerate out of control. And they're all like, antimatter chamber, this and that, blah, blah, blah. Right. And Picard says that the flow regulator is jammed open and kind of does this like sneaky little one eye look to Riker. And Riker's like, give me a try. Like I have a lot of experience with this kind of thing. So Picard saves the day. And I love it. I was like, this is
Picard
really brilliant.
Saves the day by letting Riker save the day.
Yes.
And give Riker usefulness because someone had argued he could be useful. He's a Starfleet, he belongs to Starfleet and whatever. And Baran was like, yeah, he could actually. You don't know what we could do. We could get ransom, all kinds of stuff. And then by Picard setting this up, it gave Riker a chance to be useful so that he wasn't immediately killed. Exactly, to prove his worth because he can do something no one else in the ship could do, and they only had seconds before they were going to all explode if he didn't do it. So now the captain's like, all right, put him in quarters instead of like the brig or whatever. So it already is looking like he might be a part of this ragtag hostage crew.
It's like a Mickey Mouse ship of pirates or something. Now we already talked about this, but on Baratassi, the search team reports several archaeological sites have been looted. So that's when they put together it's the Romulan thing. Now on the mercenary ship, Picard sneaks to Riker's quarters, and Picard is like, okay, here's why I appeared dead. Because Riker was like, I thought you died, right? And the whole Beverly and the fibers thing. And he's like,
Picard is like, I didn't expect to see you here, Riker. What a surprise. And Riker's like, you're telling me.
You're supposed to be dead.
The only reason I'm here is because we've been investigating your murder. And he's like, yes, yes, I understand why you would think that.
Which I was like, maybe you need to lead with that. Like, just come through with that first. But what he does explain, and this is very cool technology, and I wish we saw this again, but I don't think we do.
We still have a part 2. Oh, you mean in other episodes?
No, in TNG, these mercenaries have this technology where they can use their phasers to quickly activate transporters. So it looks like they're firing on something, but they're beaming it away very quickly. And I was like, wow, that is so cool. Imagine how many places you can use that where you're barely getting out, like squeaking in like at the last second. And if you can do phasers to transport, so cool.
It's super cool. And that explains the blasts that they were seeing on the planet's surface when they said there are these holes. They look like blasts, but they're too perfect. They're perfectly round, but it seems like a weapon. What is this? Now it explains it is because it's sort of a weapon, but it's a weapon that actually transports things. So it leaves a residue that's so weapon-like. Cool. Yeah, it's very, very cool. And hopefully we see it actually in action in the next episode. I don't know if we do because I don't remember anything about these episodes.
I don't, because these episodes are so meh.
But it was really cool. That was cool. Another cool piece of technology that these mercenaries somehow have.
Yeah. And Picard explains that like the site that he had been studying, he had tracked these mercenaries to that bar, and he was like, I guess I asked too many questions and they cornered him. So yes. And he explains that when he was on his vacation of archaeology,
that he noticed that the site had been looted, and then he noticed a bunch of sites had been looted. So basically, all the stuff Data discovered, he noticed a bunch of sites had been looted, and so he decided to track down the criminals single-handedly to figure out what's going on. Like, he didn't know it was a band of pirates. He just was like, something weird is happening. There's a lot of things being looted. So he went to that bar, and then he asked too many questions, and then he was shot/transported to their ship. And then he tells Riker that he told him his name is Galen. He's a smuggler. That's why he was asking. That's why he knows so much about all this stuff. And he's been a smuggler for like years and years and years. Yeah. And he quickly made himself useful so that he too would not be airlocked. So
totally. So yeah, they put him aboard. He's now Galen, the smuggler, who's had lots of run-ins with the Federation. So he's got lots of Federation knowledge, which works really well. Yeah, so they're stealing these Romulan artifacts throughout the sector. They're looking for something specific, but he doesn't know what. So Picard is like, Riker, okay, I want you to play into this like less than stellar Starfleet officer kind of gig I was talking about earlier. Get Baran to trust you, because Baran doesn't like Picard. So if Picard and Riker don't get along in public, then Riker has a better chance of kind of getting in good with Baran, right? As it stands, because Baran doesn't trust anyone. But like the door opens and Picard immediately has this super spicy backhand ready for Riker, which sends him flying to the floor. And Baran buys that Picard was just there trying to get answers. And Baran's like, nobody does this without my whatever. And Riker's like, Picard's like, fine, and like storms off and gives Riker a kick on the way out. And I was like, damn, dude, that was kind of cold, man. Like, that was But I like
cold. The touch of the kick on his way out, because it like would allay any fears of like, was that real or was that just for show? It's that extra kick of being like, fine, I'll leave if you want me to. And I'm gonna get my last word in so that Baran can still know, like, man, this guy is such a dick. Like, that's what he was going for. He really wanted to be like, that's why I was here, just to get your goat, not because there was anything nefarious going on.
I do love how Jonathan Frakes played that kick, because he gets kicked and he looks at Riker with his big blue eyes like, the fuck did you do that for? Like, that's totally what that looked like to me. But like, Baran bought it, so it works, right? Now, Baran announces that they're heading to Calder 2, which the Enterprise already figured out, because they're like, okay, there's a few other Romulan, like, archaeological sites in the area. These two, there's 3 of them. 2 of them are like on the other side of the quadrant, but this one is close by. So this is our best bet. There's just a little teeny tiny Federation, like scientific outpost there with no defensive capabilities whatsoever. So we better send them a message to warn them and say, if a ship of this description shows up, this scarab beetle looking ship, stall until we can get there, right?
Which I thought what Data was going to say was, if they see this ship coming, they should like leave. They should hide. They should get in their bomb shelter.
Yeah, maybe they go somewhere.
Because they made a point of saying they have no defenses. And we know these people shoot first and ask questions later, because they just literally did it to the Enterprise and the away team on the planet. So I thought he was going to be like, get a message to them and tell them, like, if they see the ship coming, to hide, or just tell them to hide and just set out sensors for when the ship comes or whatever. But instead he said, if they show up, stall them. I was like, are you trying to get the shot?
I'm good at a lot of things. I am so bad at stalling. I'm really bad at that. I'm like, are you sure you don't want a cup of tea? No. Did I already offer you a cup of tea? Like, I'm so freaking bad at that. And thinking on my feet really quickly, I'm like horrible at that.
So my question for you, Andrea, since you're so bad at stalling, what would you have done if you were on this space station on Caldera 2? Would you have been like, so how's the weather up there?
I think what I would have done is I would have done the airline hijacker thing that you're supposed to do, I guess, when you work in airlines, where like if they're trying to get into the cockpit, you tell whoever that like the cockpit is pressurized differently than the rest. Like, it has to depressurize, otherwise it'll blast the door open and then we'll depressurize and crash. So it's like a 4-minute countdown. We can't just come in and out or something. Like, I remember reading something about that where like somebody tried to hijack a small passenger plane, and the captain or the stewardess did that. The flight attendant was like, you can't just open the door. It'll like blow a hole in the side of the whatever. It's pressurized a certain way. And so they were like, okay, fine. And basically sat like with their gun pointing at the cockpit door for like 15 minutes while they like madly scrambled for a plan. So I think I would have done something like that, where it's like, our shields have a self-contained timer that we can't override. It's going to be 6 minutes until we can get it down. So you're just gonna have to wait. Sorry. Or something like that. But I think had they pressed me on it, it would have fallen apart pretty quickly. I'm not good at, I'm just such a like direct and honest person. I don't Well, I'm not practiced in it. I gotta tell you. So,
if I was in that scenario, I wouldn't even be talking to this ship, because as soon as Data's people told me, like, hey,
yeah,
this
it's like,
mercenary ship is coming, I would have been like, stall them? No. How long are you going to take to get here? What warp speed are you going at? Matter of fact,
6?
I'm going to get in the bomb shelter right now. This place will be unattended.
Yeah.
And you guys can handle it. I'm not stalling anybody. We don't have weapons here. My phaser is nothing against a freaking starship. They can have it. They can have whatever ruins they want on this planet that have been here for thousands of years and nobody cares about. They can have all of it. It's not worth my life. Peace out, yo.
That reminds me of the movie Patton, where like George Patton was such a like stubborn old goat that like this is World War II in the desert. No, sorry, World War I in the African desert, and like this plane is flying overhead, like strafing their whole base or whatever. And this mofo pulls out a Colt 45 and just starts shooting at an airplane from the ground with a handgun. And it's like, dude, what do you think is going to happen?
If he was in Fast and Furious, that would totally work. But in real life, not so much.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for Fast 89 where they have to drive through the core of the earth or some bullshit. Like that's
Oh, I thought you were gonna say through. I thought you were gonna say through the retirement community, because that's how old they'll be when they make Fast 89.
That's so true.
But the core of the earth is probably going to be in the next movie.
Anyway, so Bran is like, "Hey, we're here at Culture 2." Picard suggests, because they're like, "Well, let's just blow up the outpost, because all we need are these artifacts which are like below ground." So I'm like, can't you just beam those up and bounce before this outpost with 0 defenses can do anything? Like, nobody has to die, but whatever. So Bran's like, let's just blow it out of the sky. And Picard's like, whoop, we've got a Starfleet officer and he can probably talk his way past our defenses. So they're like, fine, let's just do that. Now, while they're kind of figuring out this plan, Picard goes to his lab and he's analyzing some samples of this pottery. And Talera, who's the Romulan number 2 of this ship, and I had to like look up her name.
Yeah, they didn't say her name in this whole episode.
No. She tells him that Bran wants those samples analyzed faster. And Picard's like, well, if he wants it faster, he can come down here and do it himself. Like, I'm the only person for this job. I have improved the like identification system like by tenfold. So basically you can suck it. And she's like, wow, you really love to live dangerously. And they kind of have this little back and forth with Picard's being like real stubborn. And this is a setup for part 2. So we'll talk about that more next week. But she basically says like, I like you, Galen, and I can tolerate a lot from people I like. But if you get in my way, I'll deal with you myself. And like she storms out. And I was like, dang. Okay, so this chick is pretty dangerous.
Yeah, I like her too. And she's the one who convinced Bran to follow Picard's plan of having Riker talk them down with the shields. So, and she's the one Romulan on the crew, and they're looking for Romulan artifacts. So it seems like maybe she's like the counselor, the special counselor to the captain, who's whispering in his ear what to do, what to get, what to look for.
Yeah.
And what it's going to mean for them. But right now she's just pretty mysterious.
Yeah, she is. But she does talk Bran into accepting like the Picard plan, which immediately fails. Like, nobody is buying it whatsoever. Riker tries to talk his way past security, but it clearly doesn't work. They stall. And Bran moves to destroy the outpost. And Riker looks exactly as I would in the situation. His eyes got all wide and he kind of froze. Picard goes into superhero mode and thinks lightning fast. And he's like, no, I can disrupt their shields with essentially an EM pulse. And if I calibrate it correctly, one pulse will knock out their whole shield system. So like nobody has to die, right? Which he doesn't say, because that would obviously like raise
out him as a Starfleet officer or something.
Yeah. And they only managed to beam up 3 of the 5 artifacts. And I don't know if you noticed this, but I definitely did. The artifact that was dropped on the ground that I originally thought was the honeypot. And then the artifact that Picard was analyzing and the artifact they beamed up, exactly the same. It was just like a broken little piece of a handle. It was like the same one. I was like, okay,
no,
so
I did notice that,
and I was shards of pottery, and like they just keep reusing it.
I didn't think of it. I mean, but I think it worked for me. It didn't seem like it was the same prop used over and over. It seemed like because they're looking for Romulan artifacts from the same period of time in the same area, they should all look like they match.
Kind of.
I didn't even notice that they literally matched, because I was like, pottery, broken pottery, that works. Keep moving.
Yeah.
That was fine for me. So here on this planet, there were 3 pieces and they only beamed up 1. And
no, there were 5 and they got 3. And they're like, there's 2 more. Yeah. So they didn't get the whole set.
They already had 2. Like they showed on the little transporter pad 1 beamed up, and he said, I need the other 2 from the planet. So they already had some. But they didn't get all of them, and they have to get all of them because they have to analyze every single one.
Yeah.
So he's like, all right, back to plan A, blow them out of the sky so we can get those last two.
Yeah.
And Picard kind of was like, oh man, because like he's out of his bag of tricks. So as he goes to push the button, suddenly the ship is hit by some fire, and it's the Enterprise. They made it.
Yeah. And this begs the question, like, Picard has 2 seconds to come up with a plan, and he can't come up with anything. So as he goes to hit the fire button, that's when the Enterprise shows up, and it's very much like a Western where it's like, pew, 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 you know, like out of the left field. What the heck would Picard have done if the Enterprise hadn't shown up? What was he gonna do?
I'm pretty sure he would not have fired on the outpost, and I'm pretty sure he would have been outed, and then somebody else would have fired on the outpost immediately, and that's what would have happened. But he's not an undercover cop. He's not going to go along with whatever just to get the goods on somebody. This was not the plan. So I think this would have been the moment where they'd be like, okay, he would have been outed and probably shot. The starbase would have been destroyed, and they still would have got exactly what they wanted. But thankfully, we didn't see that kind of darker, grisly side of this episode. Because the Enterprise shows up and starts firing, and now they're like, oh my gosh, like, you know, we can't win against a firefight with them. Last time we tried, we almost died and all this stuff. And so then Baran is like, Riker, you better tell your ship to stand down, or else, you know, because they'll kill us all, including you. So they turn on the view screen, and Riker tells Data to stand down. This is an order. You need to withdraw. And so Data's like, at first he's like, no, I can't do that. They committed crimes and we need to blah, blah, you know, follow the rules. And Riker's like, that is an order. And then he just turns off the view screen, and Data and Troy just look at each other like, what the heck is going on? Notice they didn't obey that order. They just were very confused. Like, he has to be in distress. He was kidnapped. Like, what is going on? And then Riker's like, if I set up like a ship-to-ship communication, I can send my code so that way we can take down their shields. And Brand's like, yeah, do it. So he starts to do it, and Worf immediately detects it and is like, Riker's trying to take down the shields with his codes. And Troy's like, that's weird, because he should have known the codes get changed immediately as soon as you're captured. So what's the deal? And Data again, it's a silent communication. Data stands up, and he's like, dun 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 dun.
Right?
And he's like, Worf, lower shields. But sir, we'll be completely
like, are you crazy?
Yeah.
Worf's like, are you fucking nuts? I mean, you've been right this whole time. Order. And I wanted to do other actions, but you have said no. But I didn't like that. But it's landed us at exactly the place we need to find a load of shields.
Don't even blame Worf, because this is a crazy thing to say in this scenario.
Stupid plan. Yeah.
But Data says, that's an order. And
he does. Sir. Damn it. So he drops the shields, and Baran says fire, and Picard's like, oh fuck, you know, hopefully he has like set their phasers to like toast. And he fires this red button, and we see this red phaser fire burst hitting the starboard nacelle, and it's got like little electricity like bzz, bzz, all coming out of it, and then it freezes and says to be continued.
Which also was a good spot to end it at, I thought.
That was a good spot. But I'm guessing
they could have ended at fire.
But then they already did that with Best of Both Worlds.
They did. That's why they didn't leave there. They left with the sparkler version of the Enterprise. Yeah,
but I think, you know, I remember the ending of Gambit Part 2, but I don't remember the very beginning, like the continuation of this little phaser burst.
Yeah.
But if I were to wager a guess, because we all know everybody has to sail off happily into the sunset, but like, okay, you know, Riker knows that his access codes don't work. They know that the Enterprise is lowering the shields to play along. So obviously, I'm guessing Picard has modulated the phasers to like just make it look like damage has happened. And I'm guessing the Enterprise is going to be like, all right, let's make it look good for the ship or whatever. And they're going to be like, woo, 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 and sort of drift off to the side. And that way it's like now they've kind of got this communication between Riker. They don't even know about Picard yet, but like Riker and the Enterprise. So that's, you know, that's my guess.
Yeah. And they're not going to think anything about like why their tiny little phaser hits took the entire Enterprise offline and made it float away.
Yeah. This is like a little rinky-dink mercenary ship. Run by hostages.
That's probably exactly what's going to happen. I don't remember either. I just remember everybody thought Picard was dead, but for some reason he was gallivanting around the system with mercenaries. Like that's all I remember from both Part 1 and Part 2. I didn't remember archaeology. I didn't remember cool technology. I didn't remember Riker was the captain for 2 seconds and then also captured, and then Data's the captain. Like I didn't remember any of this, so I don't know.
Everybody's over here getting a battlefield promotion left and right. It really is. What are your final thoughts on this episode?
You know what? This episode was not as bad as I remembered. Being that I didn't remember much.
Yeah.
Like I only remember those few things I just said, but I also remembered the taste it left in my mouth, which was like, I'm never going to watch this episode again. But this actually was not as bad as I remembered at all. The characters were so great, were so well developed. Even Baran and the characters on his ship, even the characters who had one line of dialogue.
Yeah.
They felt like complete characters. Like it felt like they had a backstory. It felt like they had opinions. It felt like they had personalities.
Totally.
Which is hard to do when a character doesn't even have a line or only has one line. Like the lady who was like, we should just kill him, like all of that. And that again, like comparing this to season 1 is like, oh my word, every single character, whether it was the bartender or the skeevy guy who, Uranic, who's like giving him half the data for Latinum, or any character, you could pick any character from this episode, and they were well developed, which was so impressive. They were
well developed. They were, yeah. I agree with you. My final thoughts are, it's still kind of meh. It's normally like a total pass for me because there just are so many incredible episodes that this one doesn't need to be rewatched. But you're right. The monster makeup was so great. The alien makeup was fabulous. The characters were totally believable. Like there weren't any moments where you're like, what the heck are you thinking? Right. It all sort of tracks.
You're like, yep, that's exactly what they would do.
That's what they would do.
Riker, of course, is going to go down to the planet. Of course he would. Yes.
Yeah.
It all makes sense.
It's all, even for the aliens we don't know, like Baran and like his other like ragtag galactic pirates, they're all just kind of like scumbaggies and like, it all tracks well. So like, it's still like, it's an okay episode. It's not as dumb as I remember, but it's still kind of meh for me. Hopefully things get better and we get some answers, because next week we're breaking down season 7, episode 5, Gambit part 2. Thank you guys so much for nerding out with us. Have a wonderful week and we'll catch you next week.
Bye. Thanks for geeking out with us. Be sure to join the crew at thetngpodcast.com to be the first to know when we do our live shows or host events exclusively for our members. We'll see you next time.